welcome to the Spanish Guide Online. My name is Ileana and I'm going to be teaching you this level. Let's start with the alphabet. The alphabet in Spanish is quite simple, especially if you're an English speaker. You will find lots of similarities and that it works absolutely to your advantage. There are some few letters that differ from English, so let's have a look at them. With some tricks of articulation, you should be fine. Let's start with the 5 vowels. The 5 vowels are quite important in Spanish. Spanish relies quite a lot on vowels. I need you to always pronounce every letter that you see in a word in Spanish, and that is one of the main tricks that you have to remember so you sound absolutely perfect. Let's start with A. A in Spanish is round, very round and open. So you will have to make an effort, a very conscious effort, to open your mouth quite a lot, exaggerate the movement, and just do ah, ah. Let's try a word. Autobús. That means bus in some countries in Latin America. Let's move on then to E. E, just try to remember how you pronounce egg in English, and that is exactly the same sound that we need in Spanish all the time, every time you see E in any word. E. An example with E could be elevador. Elevador means a lift, an elevator, as you could have guessed already. Next one, it's I in English, which in Spanish will be E. Confusing? Not so much, don't worry. You have the sound, just try to remember in, how you pronounce in. That is exactly the same sound. Try now a word in Spanish. Invierno. Invierno significa winter. That's what it means, winter. Let's try. Invierno. Invierno. Okay, following after E, we have in English O, and it's exactly the same in Spanish. The only difference is that it doesn't change. It's just O. Don't make it so long, nothing at all, just simple O. Let's try a word with an O in Spanish. Will be como. Como. Como means how. Como. Next one and last one will be U. I bet you heard this before, and that is just the pronunciation of your double O in English. So just picture your double O, how you pronounce it, and it's U. U, that is exactly the same sound that we have in Spanish all the time. So uno. Uno, as you know already, means one. And those are the 5 vowels. They're quite easy, so remember, just A, really round and open, E, I, O, U. A, E, I, O, and U. Okay. After the 5 vowels comes the consonants. Consonants present less of a challenge. We share most of them, but there's some particular ones that are a bit of rebel. And the first one is B. B is exactly the same. With your lips tightly closed, you're gonna use them to pronounce B. And let's try a word. Boleto. Boleto significa, it means ticket. So you can practice with that one. Boleto. The B in Spanish will be used also for your V in English. We don't have this beautiful sound that you do with your lips and your teeth. V doesn't exist. So I need you to use a B sound for that as well. So B, V. If you don't like that, you can still pronounce your V in English. It all sounds quite nice, but it doesn't exist officially. Let's try a word with a V. For example, venir. You can still use venir, but really in official Spanish should be just venir, exactly like we did before. So that you have the sound for B. Boleto, venir. But if you prefer, venir. It's the same. Okay, then we move on to Z. Z will be divided into 2 sounds. Why two sounds? That depends on what follows after it. If it's combined with an A or an U, that means our C, it will sound quite strong, like a K. So it means that it sounds ka, ko, ku. So let's see some words. Casa, comida. ¿Cuál? Casa, comida, ¿cuál? Have you heard those words? Casa significa house. Comida. Comida significa food. ¿Cuál? ¿Cuál significa which? Now, those are the three strong sounds of a C. And whenever the C it's followed by an E or an I, that means that a C weakens in sound, becomes really, really soft, almost like an S. So you will need to pronounce it as C and C. C, C. Let's try some examples. For C, we could use cerrado, that means closed, and for C, we could use ciudad. Ciudad, cerrado. Ciudad significa city. Here you're going to start noticing differences with the pronunciation of Spanish in Spain. In some parts of Spain, they would use this sound as a TH, very close to the TH in English. So you will notice the Latin American will say gracias, whereas a Spanish will pronounce gracias. This is the ceceo, and it's up to you which one you prefer. Both sound lovely and both are correct. After C, we get to D. D. To control this particular letter, I need you to move your tongue lower in your mouth. What is that? D in English is way too high, meaning the position of your tongue in the roof of your mouth. If we do that, for us it's quite confusing, and we could confuse it with a P or a B or something else. So I need you to exaggerate the movement at the beginning. It will feel a little bit uncomfortable, but pretend that you're about to pronounce a TH in English, and put your tongue in between your teeth and try to say this V. So it will be the. Don't use so much air, just the. Donde. It shouldn't be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Don't stress. But that will help you not to use your tongue in the roof of your mouth like English does, because that will be way too soft for us. So let's try an example. Donde. Donde means where. You could imagine that you're gonna use this word quite a lot. Donde. Where. Next one is F. F in Spanish is called F. It is pronounced the same, so no need to practice anything. Next one will be G. G in Spanish is pronounced G. G will be divided into two sounds, exactly like we did with letter C. It's divided into a strong sound and a soft sound, and it all depends which vowel follows after G. If you have a G, A, the sound is really strong, and it sounds gasolina. Gasolina. As you can imagine, that means gasoline. Next one, if your G is followed by an O, again the sound is quite strong. Agosto. Agosto in Spanish is August. Then if finally for the last strong sound for the G, if it's followed by an U, like in the phrase mucho gusto, that you can say whenever you're meeting someone. Mucho gusto. Mucho gusto means pleased to meet you. So there you have the three strong sounds. Gasolina, agosto, mucho gusto. Now, if the G is followed by an I or by a E, it is quite soft. Think of the pronunciation of a H in English. G with an E will sound gente. G with an I will sound gimnasio. Quite similar to your H in English. Just remember that. and then you can make the comparison. It will be easier to remember how to pronounce it. Those are the two soft sounds for G. Gente, gimnasio. Gente means people. Gimnasio, as you can imagine, means gym. After G follows H. H in Spanish is called H. H is the easiest in the whole alphabet. Why is that? Because it's completely silent. Every time you see it in a word, just ignore it. Okay? It won't make any sound at all, but you obviously have to remember the spelling of this word. You might be changing the meaning of words sometimes. So let's try the word for hour. Hour in Spanish is hora, spelled with a H, but it's not affecting it in any way. Moving on into I that we saw before, so that's all done. And then we have J. J in Spanish is called jota. Quite drastic, the change in ends, but you have the sound in English. And think of your H in English, like you say hot, and that is exactly the same sound that we make whenever we find or we're reading J. So a word with a J in Spanish with a jota could be, what do we say? Jamón. Jamón. Jamón in Spanish means ham. Jamón, ham. Never changes for the 5 vowels, the same. Then we got K. K is exactly the same pronunciation, just its name is Ka. Then we have L. L is exactly the same as well. L, its name is in Spanish is L. M. M in Spanish will be M, and it doesn't present any differences between English and Spanish. Then we got this strange little N that is pretending to be an N, but it's no longer one. And I know you noticed that it's got a little line on top of it, a horizontal one. You can spell it like a squiggle, like a little wave, or just a straight, just a flat line on top of it. By doing so, you're changing the meaning and you are using a completely different letter that is called ñ. Ñ must look a little bit strange, but you do have the sound in English. Just think of the word lasagna. That's exactly the same sound that we make whenever we see this little strange N. Let's practice with a quite handy word, tomorrow. Tomorrow in Spanish is mañana. Mañana. Again, good practice with A's. Next one, N. N in Spanish is N. That's exactly with the same pronunciation, so no problem with that one. After N, we have P. P. P in Spanish is P. No problem with that one either. It is exactly the same pronunciation. Its name, P. Then we got Q. Q, its name in Spanish is Q. Q will require always to be followed by a U, but this particular U won't make any sound. It's helping only the next vowel to make a sound. Together, the Q and the U, that you will have to always spell together like that, will make a sound of a K. So there's only 2 possible sounds with Q in Spanish, que and ki. That's it, que, ki. Don't be tempted to use any other sounds. That's all we can do. So let's try to practice with these 2 sounds. For que, we can practice with queso. Queso means cheese. And ki, quién. Quién means who. Next one we got R. R in Spanish is called R. This one, for those who love to roll R's, it won't be any problem at all. But for those who really struggle a little bit to curve the tongue and make a rolling sound, the only thing that I need you to do is just to smile. Pretend that you are very, very happy and move your lips backwards, just like this, just like in a smile. and we could say rápido. With this, you're coming closer to the sound of Spanish and getting away from the movement, the articulation of the R in English. And that will be enough to make the distinction with other letters, and you should be fine. Let's start with rápido. Rápido. You don't have to do it that long, so it's just rápido. Rápido significa fast. Then comes S. S in Spanish is ese, and is exactly the same pronunciation as well. No problem at all. And then we got with T. T in Spanish is te. Te doesn't present any problem at all. As you could see, we share quite a lot of sounds, so that is really good news for you. U and V we have already done, so we're gonna move on to W. W doesn't exist in Spanish. It is an English letter, and we just call it W, or some people call it W. We pronounce it the same as you do, so no Spanish words with W. Next one is just X. X in Spanish is called X. X will sound like a KS put together in English. It is exactly like you pronounce it. X sound. We could practice with excelente. Excelente. It's exactly the same. Next one, we have Y. Y in English and double L pronounce exactly the same. Basically, you have two options. You can pronounce it like a J or like a Y in English. One of those two sounds can work perfectly for these two letters in Spanish, for or Y and or double L. So you have the option of saying llamar with a J sound, or the same word llamar. Make it softer with a Y sound in English, llamar. That is perfectly fine. The same applies for Y in Spanish. Same two sounds, same two options in English. You could use the word, you can pronounce the word yo with a J sound, quite strong, very sharp, yo. Or soften it up a little bit and say yo. Both are perfectly correct. And there's other option softer than that one, but it's quite it's only used in Argentina, Uruguay, some parts of Colombia, and it's absolutely lovely. But it's you will use it only if you go to these places, or if you love the sound of an SH together. So it could be llamar or show, and it's beautiful. So there you have the three options for double L and for Y. And finally, Z. Z. The idea with Z, what you have to remember is that it doesn't vibrate at all like in English. So just pronounce it like an S. Picture an S, and that's all you have to do. Here, there's another difference with the Spanish from Spain, and they will pronounce it like a TH again. So for them, for the Spanish speak from Spain, you will hear them saying zapato, but for Latin American, it will be just a plain zapato, exactly the same. That, by the way, means shoe. And with this, we finish the alphabet, especially focusing on the letters that are quite different from English. So having those under control will help you to start and to feel more confident to read any words in Spanish that you can see, you can read around you, even if you don't know the meaning yet. You could be quite confident that you will be pronouncing it correctly. Just take your time to pronounce each letter in a word, except for the ones that we saw that they don't really make a sound, meaning they're silent. And apart from that, you should be fine, and it should sound perfectly beautiful. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully you found this video a little bit helpful. If you want more help for your or practice with your Spanish, please come and visit us to our webpage at www.thespanishcat.com. Hope to see you there soon. Muchísimas gracias, chicos. Nos vemos pronto.